Hi friends, it's Anne here, and today's video is my second update for my Pan That palette for 2022. I'm doing a eyeshadow palette and a face palette for the full year. I'm also doing a monthly roulette, going through all of the rest of my palettes. So let's start off with the panning portion. The eyeshadow palette that I am attempting to pan, I'm a little bit crazy, is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. I've hit pan on one shadow, which I did last month, but it's a lot bigger now. You can actually tell that it is a pan. So this shade right here. Honestly, I think it's going to be a while before we hit pan on anything else. The next one I probably will hit pan on is the big beige shade, which is just called White Chocolate. That's what I use to sort of set my eye base before I go in with shadow. I have a pretty good dip in Hazelnut as well. But yeah, visually this is going to get real boring for a while. And also I'm not weighing this palette because, I said this in my other videos, it weighs more than 200 grams, which is the max of my jewelry scale. So it's not going to show a whole lot. We'll maybe weigh it at the end of the year and see if I did more than a gram of eyeshadow, because it currently weighs 209 grams. But yeah, I have been delving into the pink side a little bit more, and I see myself using the pinks and purples a little bit more in the spring, and moving away from some of these shades. So again, it's probably going to be a while before I hit pan if I sort of am moving around. I'm kind of working on this one a little bit. This is the shade Champagne Truffle. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if I hit pan, it's going to be this one. I think it's going to be a couple months before that happens. I'll be surprised if I hit pan on that in March. So yeah, I'll throw up the picture on the screen with the side by side, so you can definitely see that one shadow has definitely grown in size, the pan. I'm also working on a face palette. You can see the mess of my house, the reflection there. This is the Hourglass Ambient, oh, I always say this wrong, Lighting Edit Volume number 4. Not gonna look too exciting from the last time. Even like from the side, it's not too exciting. I kind of forgot about this most of the month. I didn't use it a whole lot until like near the end when I'm like, oh crap, kind of need to use this palette. So progress is pretty slow. I am weighing this palette, but I am tentatively weighing this palette because we know how well that worked with my face palette last year. My numbers went all wonky. So far, so good. Last month, this was 137.28 grams. It's now 137.1 grams. So that's a difference of 0.18 grams, which is definitely less than what I used last month. But yeah, I do like these powders, but they're sort of baked, I think. So I think it's going to take me a long time. And I kind of go in with a light hand with these because I feel like that's the intention of these. They're supposed to be subtle. And that's how I like to use them. It's like a day where I don't really want to have a lot of makeup. I have been using this blush and I have been using this bronzer a few times, but I mostly am just sticking with these two powders, and I have used the highlighter a few times as well. So this one, again, is going to be slow going, and visually in the side-by-side pictures, it's going to look pretty much the same. It's going to be like that probably for like at least half the year. I don't know. I think dim light I might hit pan on earlier. I don't know. It's going to be a while. Okay, let's do a quick recap of the eyeshadow palettes that I was using in the month of February. Now, I want to talk about one palette first because it sort of threw me off a little bit. The Natasha Denona Retro palette. So I got this in my Beautylish Lucky Bag, and it kind of threw me off because I had all large palettes, and then this was another large palette. There's 15 shades in here. So I have been playing with this over the past month as well. Love this palette. I didn't really plan this very carefully because the way I decided to do my roulette was there was really no breathing room, which is error on my part. I basically was like, I have to use exactly these many shadows or these many palettes every month. And yeah, there's no breathing room if I buy palettes, but you know, whatever. We'll deal with it, I guess. There's probably going to be a palette or two that I just don't get around to using, and we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Well, once we get down to like November, I'll figure out, will I hand select some palettes and choose not to use a few palettes, or like jam in a few things near the end of the year. So yeah, what I'm going to do with this is it's not going to go in the roulette rotation right now. I might throw it in a few months, but just to kind of give myself some breathing room from using this, because it would be kind of silly if I was using this and then again I pulled it again in like March or April. Let's talk about this one, the Royal Affair palette. This is the palette I actually have on my eyes today, and I realized I hadn't used the shade Crown, which I talked about in my last video, so I've got a little bit of that on my eyes with Monarch and... I can't read that. I thought it said something rat. It says Aristocrat. So Monarch and Aristocrat, so this shade and this shade, and then a little bit of this shade tapped on the lid. Love this palette. It's interesting using this side by side the chocolate bar palette because they are very similar in tones in some cases, but this is so much more pigmented, so I have to go in with a pretty light hand. Like this is not a palette that I would attempt to pan because these are so pigmented. I think it would take me forever to try and pan this palette, but I really enjoy using this, and I like the variety in this. I really like actually this shade. I used this shade over top of, I think it was Lord, and I got this like really almost a purpley iridescent blue. Like it looked really, really pretty. I don't know if I took a picture of it. I think I kind of forgot to take a picture of it. I'm not even sure how many pictures I took of these eyeshadow palettes and some of the looks that I did. But yeah, and I know I combined like these purples with the L'Oreal Amber Rush. I really like combining like plummy burgundy purples with like pinks. I really like that combo. So yeah, really enjoy this palette. The next palette, so this was the Poppy Neon Drip palette, and I talked about this being kind of like, not super excited that I pulled this out, because it is a bit of an awkward time of the year to use this. Actually, that just reminded me, I think it's my nail polish update video where I have like pink eyes and pink lips, and I was talking about pink nail polish. my dad commented on that video, like personally, not on the video, and he's like, what was going on with that makeup look? I think it was a little too intense for him. I was like, yeah, it was neon pink on my eyes, Dad. I had neon pink on my eyeballs. I used most of the shades in this. I think the only one I didn't use the two oranges, I don't think. Maybe kiwi I didn't use, but I definitely used all the pinks and the purples. They stain, by the way. Both the pinks and the purples, like this one, all of them stain. I had slimy on my eyes in my makeup wish list video. It looks more like you would think it was kiwi. It was actually this color. It doesn't come off as neon as you think. I would probably have to do like a white base to get, or maybe a black base to get this sort of type of color on my eyes, which I'm kind of okay with not because I would say this is probably the only color that I really don't like in this palette, and I think that's fine for this whole palette. If there's only one color I don't like on my eyes, then I'm cool with that. So yeah, I am gonna keep this palette because once I did use it, I mean, I was afraid of it. I was like, or at least it wasn't vibing with me this time of year. But once I started using it, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I really like the way these looks are turning out. So I'm definitely gonna keep this palette. I would never buy another bright neon palette. Like, I don't need to. This is all I need. But yeah, quite enjoyed playing with that. Ironically, I had a hard time using this palette. So this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. I like this palette. I like the shades in this. But it's a boring palette. And I also have a boring palette as my Pan That palette with the chocolate bar palette. So I felt like days where I wanted to do a boring look, I just wanted to use a chocolate bar palette. Like, I was like, why use this when I can use my panning palette? So it was a bit of a like, I was fighting to use this palette. And I feel like I didn't use this a whole lot, to be honest. I just wasn't mentally drawn to this because I was like, if I'm going to go boring, I'm going to use my panning one. So yeah, overall, a bit of an awkward palette to use this month. I'm kind of sad, though. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I don't think I used sprinkles. I tried to use most of the colors, but I don't think I used sprinkles. Anyway, this one's going back in the vault because I've pulled out some new palettes. So let's talk about the merch picks. So I remembered to actually use the Tiny Decisions apps this time and record it this time. So the first palette that it picked, which I was pretty excited about, was the Wild Nothing palette. And I was excited about this because this is like a spring-like palette to me, so it just fits with this time of year, although I'm a little worried I might have conflicting same issues that I had with the bonbons. I don't think so, though. This is this is like peachy colors, very different to what's in the Too Faced palettes. So yeah, pretty excited to have pulled this one out. So I feel like it's a little bright. So there's what that palette looks like. I just bought this palette last year, even though I think it's been out for a couple of years. The next palette, I guess maybe this is more like the Bonbons palette. I don't know how I feel about this because it's kind of like weird. I shouldn't say weird. It's the Naked Urban Decay Basics palette, the original Basics, Basics #1. This wasn't a panning project before. I say weird because I don't know how I'm going to use this because I've been kind of using these shades again. This one's actually super conflicting with the Too Faced one because this shade is like one that I used to set up my eyes. This is sort of a crease shade. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This is definitely more cool toned or neutral toned compared to the Too Faced Chocolate Bar, but I was just kind of like, oh yeah, this palette. I like this palette though, so it was weird that I was like, I felt conflicted about pulling this out, even though I know I like this palette. I guess I just wasn't vibing this. I wasn't feeling it. The next one that came up just says Purple Quad. What is Purple Quad? It's this. These Color Workshop little quads that I got a few years ago. I think I got these 2 years ago in one of those big Color Workshop kits, and I got rid of I think 1 or 2, and I've kept 3 of them. So this is the one that I call the Purple Quad. So I'm pretty excited about trying this. I haven't played with this in a really long time, and it's a cool tone purple, so it's different than some of the other eyeshadows that I have. And these are surprisingly good. I mean, they're not something that you want to use on their own, but they do pair really nicely with other palettes that I do have. So this was a really interesting and fun pick because it's not something that I normally would have picked. Like there's 2, I have this one, I must have kept 4. I have this one, I have 2 pink ones, and then I have like a gray one, and I definitely gravitate towards the pink ones. So excited to play with that. The next palette I also had like mixed feelings about pulling out because mentally I was hoping I was going to get this in the fall. Like I'm not mad about it, but I for some reason wanted to use this in the fall. But it is the Charlotte Tilbury Starry Eyes to Hypnotize palette. So I got this in my lucky bag last year. The camera would like to focus on it. There we go. It's a beautiful palette, and I talk about greens. I actually have greens on my eyes today. I'm trying to wear the greens, but I don't love myself in greens. But these greens are different. They're a bit of a more, you can see, a murky green. It's not too intense of color, so I feel like this works. And I really like this trio as well, which surprised me. Again, it's just got the right amount of depth that it's a different kind of blue. So once I like reconcile that I'm not going to be using this in the fall, I'm using it now, I'm pretty excited to play with this because I know I'm going to get really pretty looks out of this. And it's easy to use. So like for days when I'm feeling a little bit lazy, I actually will probably use this instead of just always gravitating towards the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. Like this is a nice, easy palette to use. I feel like I like this a lot better than the quads. If you're going to get Charlotte Tilbury, I would recommend getting one of these over the quads. I can't remember how many eyeshadows we're up to right now, but what I do is I sort of tally up the eyeshadows, and then I try and make sure that I'm around 50-ish shadows, because then I'm using a combination of small and large palettes, not just like 5 large or 5 small palettes. And speaking of palettes, that I was like, wow, this is definitely one that, again, I always just want to use in the summertime. But it's probably good that I pulled this out now because I tend to actually not wear a lot of eyeshadow in the summertime, just the nature of what I do in the summer. It's this one. It's the Flamingo eyeshadow palette from Violet Voss. I really like this. I know some people don't like it. This is just different for me. If you don't have a lot of eyeshadows, but you're looking for something colorful and interesting and good quality, I think this palette is really, really nice. There is a bit of redundancy in it. I wish there was, I feel like, again, some of the oranges she could have changed up a little bit. But some of these shades, like Donut and Flip Flop, like these shades are really, really pretty up here. Same with Seashell and Surf. They're just really unique and interesting shades. I really enjoy this palette. It does go on sale every once in a while. I like the Violet Voss quality too. I've always been intrigued to buy more Violet Voss palettes. They've just been a little expensive and a little like, they're not new. Like they've been around for a while and other people have like already talked about them. The one that I'd really think I'd like is the Holy Grail one. And then there's another one. I can't think of. They had a taupe, I think that's taupe or something. No, that's taupe. I think it's ColourPop. I think she had a taupe one too that looked really nice. But I like the Violet Voss quality. I feel like it's hit or miss. People either like Violet Voss or they don't like Violet Voss. Like there's no in between. I like Violet Voss. I only have 2 Violet Voss palettes. So I have this one and a Creme Brulee fun size one. I love the idea of those fun size ones. They're great. Great amount of shadow and a great size of palette for what you get for the price. So that is my March picks, because that ended up being, I think, like 54 shadows. Again, I'm not 100% sure of the number, but I added them up and it's around 50 eyeshadows with those combined. So I definitely have plenty of new eyeshadow palettes to play with. I'm excited to see what kind of looks that I might come up with out of these palettes. It's interesting trying to combine palettes together. I haven't done that a whole lot, but I've done it a little bit to try and figure out ways to sort of spice it up a little bit. Anyway, I hope you like this second update for my Pan That palette for 2022, as well as my palette roulette for the year. If you like this video, feel free to give a little thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel here in Toronto, Canada. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye.